Welcome back to My Dad's Lawyer, a podcast about life, law, and other shit. I'm Noah Mittman, the son and lawyer.
And I'm Brian Mittman, the father, dad, and lawyer. And hello, good morning, Noah.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Well, it's good to be back, and we are winding down the summer of 2024, which I really can't believe.
I know. It's really crazy that summer went by so quick. I feel like the summers go by faster as I get older.
Welcome to adulthood.
Yes. Yes. What do you have on store for today? You're dressed up nice.
Not too much. If you recall, I've been down for the count with a little summer COVID. So I finally tested negative a couple days ago. I went to the office for the first time in over a week, and I just felt like putting a shirt on that wasn't a stinky, smelly t-shirt that I had slept
Nice.
in for 4 days. So,
Nice.
yeah,
That's good. For those watching on YouTube that can see, he's dressed up nice today.
yeah. So I do appreciate that you're looking out. Yeah, we have some good stuff today. As you know, especially by the posts from the disability guys. It's the Paralympics are well underway, so we'll talk a little bit about some cool stuff with that. Um, I have a good old guy question for you in a moment, and we're going to talk a little bit about pooping today. Well, actually,
Sounds great.
more about the business of pooping.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
cool.
Well, let's move into our first topic, Paralympics. I know you've been
Okay.
posting a lot about this on the Disability Guys page.
Yeah, so it's really interesting is when people say Paralympics, you think paralyzed, right? But what does it really mean? And in the Paralympics, I don't have the exact year offhand, but go check one of my blog posts. But I think it started back in the late 40s after World War II. And the idea, the word para means alongside. So these were created and became official alongside the Olympics. So they usually happen every 4 years, summer, winter, and they are real sporting events and competitions with individuals that have different levels of disability and limitations, both physical and mental, that occur usually a couple weeks after the quote unquote regular Olympics ends. And some really neat stuff. Well, you know, how do you judge it? So this morning I was having some coffee, and of course, unfortunately, while there is a lot of advertising for Paralympics, there's a lot of niche, support by Nike and other companies. It doesn't get the same airtime that the
Right.
Olympics get. So you can watch them live in the morning, and then they're streaming it on the NBC Peacock platform, but they haven't been doing it at night, which is kind of a bummer.
Right.
I assume over the holiday weekend, they're going to actually have some Olympics on during the day as part of the sports and everything, the Paralympics. But I was watching a track and field 200-meter preliminaries. So how do you figure out who goes in what? So there's this
That's what I
whole
was going to ask you. That was going to be my question. Do you have to have the same disability to compete against each other, or can, let's say, someone without a leg compete against someone without an arm?
Okay, so great question. So each particular sport has certain rules, but there is also an international organization that tries to help basically categorize or rank because the idea is to have fair competition.
Right.
So, for instance, within track and field in particular, where a lot of this has been for years, there are multiple levels. And so I was watching the men's 200-meter preliminaries. And the one I watched today was the T47. Well, what's a T47? It basically is a certain level that's all about upper body. So you have to have an upper
Okay.
body disability. And they actually allow for mixed levels if you can compete and qualify for certain times. So T47, for instance, I might be mixing this up. It might be T45 to T47 or T47 to T45, but basically 3 levels. And it was an upper body injury where you are missing or have a disabled arm below the elbow, below the shoulder, or both upper extremities. So this particular heat that I watched, you had a bunch of guys that missing hand, deformed hand, birth defect, whatever it might be. Then you had guys who had no arm. And then there were 2 runners that basically had 2 upper body problems, and or not problems, but just differences. And it was interesting to see the lineup, right? You had everybody lining up and they get into their blocks, and some people had a little extra holder to hold their shorter hand. Some didn't have any, and then the gentlemen with both upper arms that were disabled got to stand.
Interesting.
And you watch them run, and you're like, damn.
Definitely faster than I am.
Yeah. So, there's all different levels depending. I was watching archery, and those women in wheelchairs, and there's different reasons why they're in the wheelchair. But
right.
I guess they have to get certified that they're in the wheelchair for a reason. And I haven't read it yet. I saved it to read. But, of course, being competitive sports and being categories, people are always trying to push it a little bit.
Right.
That's kind of like the 160 kilogram fighter who tries to lose 5 kilograms so that they can fight at the lower level and beat the crap out of people.
Right.
There's been a lot of alleged cheating in terms of trying to get into categories or miscategorize yourself to get into categories.
Right. So almost to take advantage and try to win.
Yeah, so I'm starting to dive a little deeper because it's absolutely fascinating, because it's a great question, as you said, and I have no idea. There could be mixed categories, right? Maybe it's an upper body, lower body. Maybe it's something else. Who knows?
All right.
Really fascinating. And it's things like not just missing a limb versus being born with, let's say, a muscle issue that affects the limbs.
Right.
That affects your body in different ways.
Of course.
So, really fascinating stuff.
All right. Well, that was a good opening segment. Now we're moving into our old guy question.
Okay. So, old guy question. So, podcasts, and here we are on a podcast.
Yes.
More and more, constantly hearing about it. We heard our boys, the Kelsey brothers, just got $100 million contract for their
yes
their New Heights podcast.
That'll be us soon.
Oh yeah, keep supporting us and like us wherever you listen to your podcast. Anyway, I find it interesting, listening to the advertising for all these different podcasts, and there's so many different podcasts. I know I personally try to find a podcast usually somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes that I like to listen to. Every once in a while I get into a longer podcast. But growing up, I was a radio person, right? There were no podcasts. There were radio shows. And you would spend your time, the radio show's on. You would sit down and you would listen for an hour, whether you were driving.
Right.
Before my time, when your grandparents were growing up, there was really not a lot of TV. So people actually listened to the radio instead of watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
How do you consume your podcast? There are so many podcasts out there. Kind of like, what is the way that you consume your podcast?
All right. I was thinking about how to answer this. So how I actually get the content is 2 ways. 1, I use Apple Podcast app. And 2, I use YouTube. If I'm in my apartment or sitting on the couch or somewhere where I can watch, I tend to like watching the podcast almost as an episode of a show. If I'm in the car or, for a walk or something, I'll listen on my Apple Podcast app. That's how I access them. In terms of figuring out which ones to watch, I probably have 2 or 3 main podcasts that I religiously listen to when the episodes come out. I follow them on Instagram. I know, when the episodes are coming out. Let's say the Kelsey brothers, they come out on Wednesday mornings at 8. So, that's my Wednesday morning drive and Wednesday afternoon drive. I actually got to listen to their new episode. They have Adam Sandler on.
Oh, I'll definitely listen to that. Nice.
So for the podcast that I still follow that I don't listen to religiously, it's really just watching clips on Instagram of the podcast. So I follow all these podcasts. For example, the Sean Jackson and the Sean McCoy have a podcast, the 2510 podcast or something like that.
Okay.
I don't religiously listen to their podcast, but I follow all the clips on YouTube, on Instagram. So I'm up to date with their podcast, what they're doing. If something seems interesting or they have an interesting guest, I'll, go in and I'll watch the full or listen to the full episode. Similar with, some other sports athletes that I like. I'll follow them on Instagram, see all the clips of their podcasts. Won't necessarily listen to the full episodes unless it's something that interests me or they have a cool guest on.
That's a little more organized, I think, than how I do some of it. But I like that. In fact, the one thing
that's why you're asking me the question, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, the one thing that does drive me a little nuts, and it's interesting to hear what you have to say about the YouTube version is, I am sure there will be some people that are going to be watching us and saying, God, I love those two handsome looking attorneys, father and son, right? But to be honest, other than my dog barking in the background, there's not much exciting to see except two talking heads.
Right.
So there's one podcast I follow about nutrition, and I absolutely love it. He has Trevor Cashy Nutrition, right? Coffee with Dr. Cashy. He has amazing content. Sorry, I got a very barky Stella.
It's all right. She wants a treat.
Yeah. Let's hold on 1 second and take a treat break.
Oh, hey, Stella.
Okay, treat has been delivered.
Where's my treat?
I'll give you one this weekend. I'm seeing you golfing.
All right. Okay.
So his material is amazing, but he's a fast talker. So and they're usually about 15 minutes. So I'll listen to it on a walk. But he's always whiteboarding like a fascinating topic. And it makes me nuts because for whatever reason, I can't find the video version.
There might not be a video version.
Right. Well, I know there's a video version, but I think it's locked down for whatever the program is or something.
Okay.
You can go pay for a program.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, I want to listen to this, but it's so freaking annoying.
I know.
Not being able to see that. Whereas there's other ones that are clearly, right? I could listen to a Malcolm Gladwell podcast, captivated. In fact, I have to be careful driving while I'm listening to it because I'm just going to keep driving when he's telling one of his stories. But anyway, that's a very interesting way to approach it. I didn't even think about following on Instagram.
Right, because they release all these short 30-second, 60-second clips of the podcast. So, I know about all these podcasts, thousands of them probably, but I don't listen to all of them. Another good one, Corey Kluber. I mostly listen to sport podcasts. I want to get into these history podcasts. I know a lot of my friends love them and always talk about them. So if you have any recommendations.
Well, the Malcolm Gladwell has one called oh my God, it begins with an R and I'm drawing a complete blank. But I'll get it to you. And he tells a story. He wrote the he wrote a book called The Mafia Bombers or something like that.
Okay.
About how. And he takes a story and he frames it and just fascinating.
He's a good storyteller.
Yeah. And then that's what I especially, and that's how you learn your history, right?
Right.
All right. So we'll talk about those.
Excellent. All right. Now moving on to our main topic. Well, actually, we have two main topics today. The first one, I believe, is pooping.
Okay. Well, that was more of something weird and a little bit of a rant. So let me rant and then we'll get into a topic. Okay. So I don't know what it is lately, but I've been regular. But there have been a lot of commercials breaking the pooping taboo when it comes to toilet paper. Right? There's some cute one with the bears and showing the blah blah blah. And so whatever, we have this whole taboo in our society about talking about pooping. We all do it, and toilet paper. And lately, there have been all these commercials where they're like trying to say, "Oh, our toilet paper is better than your toilet paper. Wipe your bum with, us, because it's going to be smoother and more enjoyable." So I'm watching. It was the Paralympics actually, and a really great song, nifty song from the early 1980s came on. "We Built This City" by Starship. We built this city on rock, right?
I know the song.
Right? They made it into a fucking poop toilet paper commercial. I'm like, are you kidding me? You have just ruined ruined, the song. And I'm like, what? And I was captivated watching the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, when did that start happening?
I don't know, but it's catchy, I'm sure.
Oh, it's very catchy. And listen, I'll give all of these artists, especially the ones from the 70s and the 80s and even early 90s who haven't taken advantage of, the money that was out there, is that they get
Right.
to reuse it and then do it. Listen, Geico used that commercial with the microwave. I forget which song it was. It's escaping me. But anyway, but lately I've seen so much of it. And then, of course, you and I are talking about this, and what's going to end up popping up on my phone?
Toilet paper commercials.
Toilet paper commercials and bidet commercials. Right? I'm like, really? Now I got to go try to have a bidet, but we can talk about that another time. Right?
Nice.
Life, law, and
other shit.
Exactly. Okay, so you had a main topic you wanted to talk about.
Yes, chicken wings. There's two things about chicken wings that I want to get into. The first was the chicken wings being stolen out of, was it the school cafeteria, I believe it was? Let me see.
Yeah, so there was a woman, I don't know where this was. Maybe it was Ohio, maybe it was somewhere in Midwest. She was the I guess the supply person for a school district.
Yes.
And no, Georgia, I think it was. And over the course of, I think it was 5 or 8 years, embezzled $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Million dollars through chicken wings.
Between July 2020 and February 2022, she stole nearly
2 years.
11,000 cases of chicken wings.
Yeah, so she would pad the orders with extra chicken wings, right? Boxes of chicken wings, and then through another person, oh, look, it fell off the back of the truck, and resell them.
Yeah, apparently she's going to be sentenced to like 9 years in prison or something
for
like that.
Chicken wings.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's embezzlement. It's not chicken wings, but
right.
People will come up with anything.
Uh-huh.
So,
I wonder if they were good chicken wings.
I hope they were good chicken wings.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if she was smart enough. Obviously not smart enough, but if she was smart enough, not only do you have what you get on that side, I wonder if you got anything on the backside, like, oh, give me a piece of your profits or selling the chicken wings, or who knows.
Crazy.
Which brings me to, I ranted about this over on the Disability Guys and Coffee with the Disability Guys.
Boneless.
Was more chicken wings.
Yes.
So the Ohio Supreme Court threw out a lawsuit. And in this particular lawsuit, the individual had horrific injuries. The individual had swallowed a 2-inch piece of chicken bone, ripped his esophagus, all these surgeries, all these problems. That's awful, right? That's, somebody choking, somebody with that's just awful. And I think everybody can agree. The problem was that individual went to a restaurant and was eating boneless chicken wings. So they sued to say these weren't boneless chicken wings.
Right.
And the Ohio Supreme Court contorted itself to throw the case out, saying that, well, the normal, reasonable, rational human being would know that chicken has bones, and therefore boneless chicken wings may have bones. And they said, you have a piece of fish, you expect a bone. Even though in the dissent, one of the justices called it jabberwocky, which is a great word, and then went ahead and said, when you're eating chicken fingers, you're not eating fingers.
Right.
Right. so right. Basically boneless chicken wings
are intended not to have bones.
Not just that, is that it's basically chicken that's like pulled, chopped up,
a chicken nugget, basically.
and processed somehow and wrapped in coating and fried or whatever it is. It's a boneless chicken wing. So even if you had a piece of bone, you're not going to expect to have a 2-inch bone.
I wonder how you swallow a 2-inch bone without noticing.
Well, I mean, I don't know how big this dude was. He probably just popped it and, and that's not fun either.
No.
But it was really, really amazing. So I think though this is a good comment about life, the law, and the law is that what seems rational and reasonable to you and to me and to anybody else when it comes to the law could be something completely different.
Right. Yeah.
So
all right.
I thought that was nuts. Anyway.
Well, I have an announcement to make on the podcast. Ooh. I am trying my first case September 9th.
Hey, congratulations.
So there's some law for you.
All right. Where are you going to be trying it?
Rockland County.
Am I allowed to put a suit on and sit in the courtroom?
Sure.
That's Monday, September 9th.
Well, all that's right. Jury selection, so probably the 10th.
All right. I
10th or 11th. I'll let you know the schedule.
Okay.
But it'll be that week.
I'll have to ask the judge, am I allowed to take photos or is that off limits? And then I can beat up the court officers. Oh, sorry, political comment.
That's some exciting news. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, very exciting. All right, I can, if you want, I am happy to be,
my practice witness.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
I'll catch you soon, Noah.
All right, have a good one. Follow us all on social media platforms. I'm at a Lawyer, and then we also have our podcast Instagram, which will be in the comment section somewhere on one of our podcasts for all of you to follow.
And I am Brian, and can be followed at The Disability Guys. Have a good one.
Have a good day, everybody.